it was one of the other questions I wanted to ask you. I also remember that you were very good at using humor in your presentation. Now, for those who, because it happens to me so much, I help professionals improve their presentations, and they ask me, I would love to be able to use humor more and better when I give my talks, but I'm not a funny person. Do you have anything you do, any tips, any pieces of advice for those who would like to use humor more and better, but they are not, or they think they're not funny by nature, by definition?
Yeah, the first piece of advice is one that's frequently shared by friends of mine, Jeremy Nicholas, who specialises in using humour in presentations, and Alan Stevens, with whom I work on my talks, and that is never try and tell a joke.
Mm.
And I think that's really important. This isn't stand-up comedy. So if you try and tell a joke, you're setting yourself up for a fall. And that relates to my second tip. And my second tip is, if people don't laugh, they didn't realize it was a joke. And so you just move on. So, for example, I have a story, a little vignette about a time I went to an expo for the football industry. And this is an example of how I use humor. So I'll put a throwaway line in, and I've come up with a lot of them in the moment, and I'll know from reactions which should stay in and which shouldn't. And sometimes it's not the one I think is funny. You know, there are lines that I use time and time again, and I've never found them funny, but audiences always do. So I leave them in. And there are others that I find really funny and no one ever laughs. They come out. So you can't be too attached. But back to this point. So the line I have there, and it's not it's not an earth-shattering, it's not the world's funniest joke, but it works. Is the expo I'm talking about is one for the football industry. So the line is, all the world's leading football clubs tend to go. I'd say Bayern Munich are there, Real Madrid are there, Charlton Athletic. So Charlton being my team. Now, people who like football will get that, and they'll laugh and they'll barrack or whatever. Sometimes audiences don't get it at all, and they don't laugh. And that's fine by me, because that tells me they believe Charlton Athletic are one of the world's leading clubs. So it's okay, carry on. But that's the key point. I haven't put a flag up and said, here comes the punchline. I've just thrown it in naturally, maybe with a bit of a pause, but I've thrown it in quite naturally. And then a little pause after to allow people to process it and laugh if they want to, but not too much, and not, oh my God, why aren't you laughing?
Yeah, yeah.
So the more subtle your lines, the easier it is if they don't quite land. And then what you do is you try stuff. And you listen and you pay attention to the audience, and maybe listen back or watch back a recording, and start to notice which lines work and which lines don't, and adapt accordingly. And don't be too precious about anything. But it's about finding those little lines of humor. Nothing major. You're not there as a stand-up comedian. It's finding those little throwaway touches that just draw people in, and then you can move on.